here we are. It's the April 30th program. We want to welcome everybody for being here tonight, and thank you for joining me. It's been a couple of weeks. I was out of town there for a little bit, but all is well. Thank you very much. So, I think I'm ready to go ahead and just get started right into the program tonight. So, now, what's happening with the currency exchange? About 2 weeks ago, I had a very, very large update come in from my brokers, and they basically gave a very, very good report. And I'm going to summarize. I have to be careful that I can't share everything, but I'm going to summarize basically what they had said. They have said that it's reported there are sufficient monies to pay for all of the exchange, the redemption programs, and this money is held in various bank accounts in Western countries, and it's awaiting the release by the two national governments presently controlling the program. And these are basically white hats that are in the United States and China. Now, what had happened was, I know I had reported that basically they were training the staff. Well, that was kind of based on this report, that wasn't quite the full story. What it says was that there was a team of people from U.S. Treasury, Department of Defense, Homeland Security, and Department of Justice officials, and they have since late February have been at the Texas Processing Office going through. They said they have completed a lengthy and full audit of all client owner accounts, as well as reconciliation of all the historical bonds for sale and currency parcels so far lodged through that office in the official redemption buyback program. Now, what's important to understand is none of you that are with me will be in that list. I am a single client with the Texas Processing Office, and then you are basically subsidiary clients under me. But now here's what they're saying. Real progress has been accomplished, taking all redemption clients very much closer to the ultimate payout. And what's happening now is the U.S. government, after their audit was completed, they basically had now then 11 agents or personnel from 5 different U.S. government agencies that are there at the Texas Processing Office, and they are training the staff what to do and how to handle everything in basically the release of the funds and the payouts that is there. Now, it says, we await advice of when the U.S. government tutorial team has completed its instructional session at the payment of the office, thus allowing the last few procedures prior to payout to proceed. Folks, that means it's getting very close. Very, very close, okay? Now, that's the update on the currency exchange. But what I want to do, I need to go now and find this email that, that on the update, the email update that was from, let me see if I can find him here. Or did I put him, where did I put the Ben Fulford email? I don't, okay. Ben Fulford, I was going to read that Ben Fulford email. Where did I put it? Where did it go? Where did it go? Oh, I think I put it into the holding. Yes, I put it into my holding file. So then hold on here. Now, I want to read you a little bit of an update that came from the Ben Fulford email that I just received a few days ago. Because while he's not talking directly about the currency exchange program, he's addressing a lot of issues of what we've been waiting for. Now, here's what it says. U.S. President Donald Trump and his team have broken the financial political deadlock in the West by forcing the removal of the rubber-masked fake Pope Francis. Now, Fulford has been reporting for a couple of years that the Pope basically was a fake. He wasn't the real guy. The real Pope has been dead for about 3 years. This was followed by the removal of many other members of the Octagon Group Politburo that has been controlling the collective West. I have been saying that our Western governments have been controlled by what is called these cabal people, the Khazarian Mafia. And what Fulford is reporting is that they are being removed. Now, Klaus Schwab, who was the head of the World Economic Forum, was probably the biggest perpetrator in all of this. He is actually a Rothschild. So Klaus Schwab Rothschild, George Soros, and King Charles have been removed. A couple of holdouts like the EU leader Ursula von der Leyen and Jean-Michel Rocard, aka Brigitte Macron, are expected to fall soon. It's no coincidence. Now let me back up. So these are the people that are really the world leaders. Now I'm going to say something. This Jean-Michel Rocard, who is Brigitte Macron, is the supposed wife of President Macron of France. Now there has been I'm going blank on her name right off the bat, but she has done extensive research in about a 5 to 6 part video series on the fact that President Macron's wife, Brigitte Macron, is not a female. She's actually a man. She is a male, and the evidence is absolutely overwhelming. And she is also a Rothschild. So I have always said, remember, this Khazarian mafia is controlled by the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Morgans, and another family that's out of Germany. These are the people, these 4 families have been the ones that have controlled our Western world money supply. They control the Federal Reserve, who controls the money supply for us here in the United States directly and the rest of the world indirectly. Now, let me go on and read a little more from Fulford. It's no coincidence that on the same day that Pope Francis was pronounced dead, the World Economic Forum announced that Klaus Schwab Rothschild had been removed. The announcements of the death of King Charles and George Soros are also expected in the near future. Charles and Soros did not attend the Pope's funeral, hinting that they are gone. Now, readers of this newsletter know that all 4 of these individuals have been dead for at least a couple of years. Their deaths were not announced because they each represent extremely powerful financial interests. Instead, avatars were used to keep the Khazarian mafia's control over the financial system intact. Did you hear that? These are the people that have this extreme power over the Western world financial system. The removal of the avatars means a complete change is coming to world politics. It's now expected funds to finance a jubilee and a future planning agency aimed at starting a new golden age will be signed off by the new pope and the Dragon family as early as late May, P3 Masons and Dragon family sources say. I'm going to read that paragraph again because that's the most powerful thing of everything I want to be saying here tonight. The removal of the avatars that I mentioned earlier means a complete change is coming to world politics. It's now expected funds to finance a jubilee and a future planning agency aimed at starting a new golden age will be signed off by the new pope and the Dragon family as early as late May. President Trump has been saying we're moving into the golden age. My last program about a month ago talked about this entering into this new global golden age. And Ben Fulford has basically been reporting for 3 to 4 years that there was going to be this what's called this financial jubilee. What this means is that all the debts around the world are wiped out. All the debts are going to wiped out. They're going to install a complete new global financial system, and that is basically the start of what is called this golden age. And folks, here's what, now this is my speculation. I can't say this specifically, but based on what my brokers have said, that they're now very close to the funds being released, and then Fulford reporting that there is this jubilee that is on the way, that would be the absolute best time for the Texas Processing Office and the governments controlling that to release the funds. Because remember, there are trillions of dollars in that Texas Processing Office. if that money starts getting released and nothing else is going on, the world is saying, what's happening? What's going on? What is all this money? Where did all this come from? But if it is released in conjunction with this Jubilee, it's just another event, and it's a part of the greater picture of the Jubilee that Ben Fulford is writing about. So, folks, I think there's that possibility then. We're going to see ourselves in a very, very close scenario coming up here fairly soon. Now, here's what I want to do. I want to share, because I have always said that, remember, it's the money scenario that runs and controls our world. We live in a world of basically what's doing that. I'm going to share a couple of short videos again about who really runs the world financial system.
It is very clear that the head of the snake is the financial system. We can argue till the end of time about who runs the world. Is it the reptilians? Is it the Illuminati? Is it the Freemasons? We can go on and on and on and on about this, but I don't think it is reasonable to even begin arguing about the mechanism that is used to exert this control. The mechanism is finance. The whole point of finance is to indebt, otherwise to enslave. What is a mortgage? I mean, what does that stand for? It's a death grip. So when you get a mortgage, you have a death grip held over you because you are in debt. You don't even own the house. The bank owns the house that loans you the money to buy the house, unless you're fortunate enough to have all the money to buy it outright. And even then, you can be taxed by the government, and if you fail to keep up with those taxes, the government can then take it from you. The whole system is based on a financial fraud, which effectively takes the power that we have, and it gives it to a tiny group of individuals who are running the world through the control of finance. It is very clear that the head of the snake is the financial system.
Okay, all right. Okay, so what we saw there again, he says the head of the snake, this world we live in, is basically the financial system, and it's a fraudulent system, and in many ways we are all slaves to that fraudulent system. Now, but there's a financial revolution that is coming our way, and I want to share another video now, okay?
Earth. I am Valir of the Pleiadian Collective. Another crucial piece of the strategy that the White Hats are implementing involves securing higher truth disclosures through financial restructuring. This means they are targeting the very financial systems that have kept the cabal in power. Money is the lifeblood of the old control grid. It was through control of banking, currency, and debt that the cabal could blackmail nations, finance their dark projects, and buy the silence of the media. So the Alliance knew that to truly free humanity, they would have to take down or transform the financial system that served as the cabal's stronghold. This is one reason we see an impending financial collapse or radical shift. It is deliberate and part of the plan, though it will be blamed on other factors publicly. The strategy has been to corner the cabal financially and cut off their supply lines. For example, by disrupting global money laundering operations and closing tax haven loopholes, the Alliance quietly choked off funding sources for many dark programs internationally. White Hats have worked with positive factions in countries around the world to move away from the cabal-controlled petrodollar system. In summary, the White Hat strategy has been meticulous: place the right people in the right positions, neutralize opposition through negotiation or quiet removal, and attack the root of the cabal's power, their financial networks. All of this sets the stage for the big reveal and the big switch to new systems that serve humanity. The genius of this plan is that it doesn't rely on just blind faith. You will see tangible changes. A new financial system is one of the biggest tangible markers of victory. So, when you witness economic turbulence, remember this perspective. It is the storm before the rainbow, the necessary turmoil as the world shifts from an enslaving economy to a freeing one. Keep your confidence knowing that a safety net is in place and that the White Hats, advised by higher guidance, have accounted for as many variables as possible. The financial drama is, in fact, one of the final battlefields where truth will triumph and pave the way to global ascension. We see only a few major moves remaining on the cabal's chessboard, and they are likely to try them in rapid succession or simultaneously. These could include engineering further conflicts or wars to activate martial law, or distract from disclosures, attempting a cyber pandemic or massive hacking attack to blame the coming financial collapse on something other than them, pushing extreme climate or food crises narratives to induce panic, or even a false flag alien invasion scenario using their secret technologies. hoping to unite the world under their militarized control, portraying benevolent ETs as enemies. Be aware of these possibilities, but do not fear them. In all cases, the Alliance is steps ahead and has countermeasures ready. Welcome to part 3 of the probable timeline on...
Okay, so now we're back here. That's a very, very powerful video, that is message that is there. Now remember, folks, what I do at the end of this program, I'm going to end up editing, because all of this is basically, it's recorded and it's saved. And I'll end up editing the whole program that is there, and you'll be able to go back and watch that video. It's a very, very powerful message about the shift and the change that we are ready to be going through. So when I showed the previous video, it's basically what we call the cabal, the Khazarian mafia, through the Federal Reserve that runs and controls our Western financial system. And then the information that I read from you from Ben Fulford, it says that system, those leaders are on their way out and it's ending. And if you really got the full message from Ben Fulford, he's basically saying they've already been dead for 2 to 6 years, but they've had their avatars that they've been propped him up, and they keep them there because they all control so many powerful financial interests. But what's happening now is that they are being removed. They're being removed. And if you think the death of the Pope wasn't a strong statement, the Vatican's bank is probably the most strongest financial entity in the world. They have the ability to control so much of the world's finances. They're even in some ways just as strong, if not stronger, than the Federal Reserve System. So the fact that that Pope is done and gone, now officially on record, there's a new Pope that will be coming in. So I don't know who, what, I'm not going to speculate on any of that. Now, I had made the comments about the fact that President Marcone's wife is actually a man. It was Candace Owens who reported that. I went blank on her name, and some of you went ahead and you basically on Facebook messaging, went ahead and gave me those messages. Candace Owens is the one who gave that report. You can Google her, you can find her website, and you can watch all the videos. In fact, it was Tucker Carlson who actually had interviewed her, and he said he was very speculative, or wasn't quite believing. He couldn't quite understand or believe the fact that Marcone's spouse was actually a man. But he said after he watched her videos and interviewed her, Tucker Carlson said he is now 100% believing the fact that it's a man. The president of France's spouse is a man who disguises as a woman, and she's a Rothschild. So it shows you how the Rothschilds have controlled so many of the European countries, and they have also controlled the Federal Reserve, which is the money, powerful system of our Western world. And all of those are ending. They're on their way out. So it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of this. And as we go back to what Ben Fulford had to say, he is projecting this new jubilee and this change around the end of May. Now, I'm going to make a comment, and this is pure speculation on my part. I don't have any solid evidence, but it's just starting to put all the pieces together. Is that you've got Fulford saying that we're on our way for a grand jubilee. You've got my brokers that work with the Texas Processing Office saying that they have had months of going through all of the files through the various government agencies. So these government agencies know who's going to be receiving all of these funds, and saying that part has been done, and they're now in the process of going through a tutorial session. There are 11 representatives from 5 different government agencies at the Texas Processing Office training staff how to release the funds, how to make sure it's secure, how to make sure it doesn't get hacked into, so everything for us is safe. That's where we are. And so, as I said, there's a lot of this stuff we're close. This may be happening around the end of May. So And Bob, thank you that you're saying that as you had on Facebook on the comments there that Cliff High has been saying the same exact thing. So folks, there's a lot of stuff coming, okay? And it looks like we may be in that process of seeing funds released within about a month. Now that's the start of the process. How long that's going to take, I don't know. I can't say. It may take a month before it gets down to me. I don't know. But here's what I want to encourage you folks. Once I get the word that the exchange is going to officially be underway, I can no longer take in funds to purchase more dong. So if you are serious about wanting to purchase more dong, and I've shared with you the story about that, about, the dong is the currency that I used, and this is all set up through the Texas Processing Office. You can purchase the dong at $62 for 1 million dong, and it's going to pay out at $1.50, so that $62 turns into $1.5 million. This is all a part of the bigger picture of why this is being allowed. I've shared with you, this goes back to my visiting with the Dragon families, who are the original sources of this money, about 11 years ago when I was in Hong Kong. And they said they have had this massive amount of gold, but they have always said the gold doesn't belong to them, it belongs to humanity. They are just guardians and caretakers of it until it's time for it to be released. And what they're saying is now is that time. Now is the time for it to be released. And this has gone on for a couple thousand years for them. They wanted to start that with the original Bretton Woods Agreement right after World War II. But they realized that the governments were too corrupt at the top and the banks were too corrupt at the top, and this money would never make it down to the people. Then in 1963, President Sukarno of Indonesia, along with President Kennedy, signed what was called the Green Hilton Memorial Agreement. And President Sukarno was a Dragon family member, and my understanding was he had about $1 trillion in 1963 dollars to be released to the world. Now, Kennedy was on record as saying, number one, he was going to basically completely restructure the CIA, and number two, he was going to get rid of the Federal Reserve. And those two vehicles are the vehicles the cabal use for their power and their control. Now, personally, I think that's the real reason why Kennedy was assassinated. And that's when basically Sukarno recognized that wasn't going to work either. So they needed to, over a period of time, figure out a way. How do they release these trillions of dollars out there to the masses around the world to basically have a complete control and shift in the power of the financial structure? And that's when they realized is that the cabal could not stop somewhere between 30 and 50,000 individuals being turned into overnight millionaires and being told, go spend it. That's the purpose of this currency exchange, okay? Now, Craig, you had said, am I aware of other private exchanges launching payouts on different timetables? No, I am not. I don't know. I don't know any other private exchanges that are involved in that, so I can't really tell you. I only know the one that I'm involved with the information that I've shared here tonight that comes from the Texas Processing Office and the subsidiary information that's coming, from Ben Fulford. Those are the pieces of the puzzle that everything looks like it's getting ready to go, okay? So I've shared with you the updates. I've shared with you what I see is a probable potential timeline, which was, I really hope that would be nice for all of us. And so that's pretty much everything that I wanted to share here tonight, folks. Some other comments that are coming in on Facebook. Am I still looking at getting a credit union? Yes. Now, the scenario of when I was in Africa, there was a potential of getting some funds there that would allow me to set up the credit union before the release of the currency exchange. That whole scenario got put on hold, and it looks like that's not going to work for what was there. But what we will do is, when the funds are released, I will probably be able to make what is called an immediate release to you. Everybody will have to fill out new paperwork. I need to get your bank accounts and stuff like that. and I will start releasing some funds, part of it. And then what in that process, we're going to set up the credit union, and I will establish an account for everybody in the credit union, and then your funds will be deposited into the credit union account, and then from there it's yours. It's free to do with whatever you want and however you want. Now, the reason we're wanting to go with a credit union is because the regulations aren't as tight as the banking system and scenario, and credit unions are owned by their members. So all of us that have accounts in the credit unions, we're all kind of like stockholders, and we are the ownership of this credit union, and this will be our own credit union. And you can get debit cards, you can do whatever you want and all that kind of stuff. So, but I've done my homework on this, and I really have found out for us, establishing our own credit union is far better than setting all this up through, an established bank account. That we could have a bank account, but we don't have any control over the banks at all. And so now, will the credit union have cards and checks? I assume yes. I don't know that yet, okay? Now, also, Susan, you have said, I've heard that the U.S. tax structure is either going to be drastically changed or go away. And that's what President Trump is currently reporting and talking about. The reason for the tariffs is because they have the ability to bring in enough revenue that we no longer have to pay income taxes to the IRS. He's basically saying that everybody that makes $200,000 or less per year will not have to pay any taxes. Because he says that the Internal Revenue Service, he would like it to go away, and he's now in the process of creating the External Revenue Service. And if you haven't seen the reports, in just the last couple of weeks with the tariffs that President Trump imposed, they've already brought in over $15 billion in just a couple of weeks. $15 billion. And it's just getting started. So, folks, I know the media is ripping him to pieces. There's lots of attack on it. But tell me, folks, I really believe he knows what he's doing. Because for decades and decades, other countries have been taking advantage of us, placing tariffs on a lot of our stuff, and we've never tariffed anybody else. So we've been basically the pawns to the rest of the world, and President Trump is now saying, I just want to be on par with almost everybody. Because remember, when he established that he was going to set the tariffs, within 1 week, 75 countries had basically called his office in. We want to talk about this. And China is the big one that there's the contention with. But I think, folks, if you really know what's going on in the country of China, they are in deep, deep, deep financial trouble. They were already on the verge of almost a complete financial collapse and bankruptcy before this tariff scenario even began. And that was because of the fact that their real estate industry had basically imploded, and people were losing money left and right in the real estate industry, and banks were going under. And so now with this tariff, remember, when China would make all of its quote called chief stuff and send it, if I remembered right, almost 60% of their exports were coming into the United States. What does that mean? They have lost 60% of their purchasing power because the United States is no longer buying all of their stuff. Now, yes, there could be a temporary hardship or a temporary inconvenience to those of us here, but remember, almost everything that we were buying from China can be purchased or produced in other countries. Vietnam is already stepping up and starting to build new production plants to replace a lot of the stuff we've been buying from China. And we're not tariffing Vietnam like we are China. So yes, there's a financial tariff war that's going on right now, but I think this is, in the long run, is a much, much better scenario for us. Yeah. Okay, so there was a question that says, we'll be able to set up the proposing to be able to handle trust accounts. Trust accounts are your business. That's your business. That's not mine. I give the money to you, and what you do with it is your business. You can transfer it over to the trust account, or you can set the trust account up as the one that the money would go into. So how long would it take to set up the credit union? My understanding is it can be done in basically a month or two. You can get an initial one in just a month or two, but I don't know that. I need to do some more research on that, but I don't know. Okay, so, and that's something I'm going to be starting in the next couple of days, doing the research about how to set up a credit union. Okay, so that's the scenario that I have here tonight, folks. So with that, folks, that's all that I have to share tonight, and I want to say thank you very much, and I think we're ready to call it an evening. So, all right. Okay, let's see. Let me go back to here. And yep. So thanks a lot, folks. We'll see you later. Okay, bye-bye.